Joining us once again is Congressman Adam Schiff, who led the House managers in the impeachment trial. He's chair of the House Intelligence Committee. Mr. Chairman, thank you for staying with us. I really appreciate it.
You bet.
One of your fellow impeachment managers, the chairman of the Judiciary Committee, Jerry Nadler, told reporters today that it is likely he is going to issue a subpoena for John Bolton, former National Security Advisor John Bolton, who rocked the impeachment proceedings sort of externally by his statements that he had information directly relevant to the president's conduct in this inquiry, and later reporting that in the manuscript of his forthcoming book, he described the president talking to him directly about wanting to link aid to Ukraine to these investigations. Is it your understanding that Mr. Bolton will be subpoenaed by either the Judiciary Committee or by your committee in the House? Can you tell us anything about that?
Rich, I can tell you that there's been absolutely no decision made about whether to subpoena John Bolton or not subpoena John Bolton. What we had decided in discussing this with the Speaker is we were going to try the case, we would conclude the trial, and we would consider what next steps we should take afterwards. So at this point, no decisions have been made about that. I can tell you that after the Senate voted not to hear witnesses, after they voted to be the first impeachment trial in history without witnesses, we did approach John Bolton's counsel, asked if Mr. Bolton would be willing to submit an affidavit under oath describing what he observed in terms of the president's Ukraine misconduct, and he refused. So for whatever reason, he apparently was willing to testify before the Senate, but apart from that, seems intent on saving it for his book. He'll have to answer for that. But at this point, we have not made a decision about whether or not to move forward with a subpoena, but it's certainly something that we will be discussing.
You also raised flags in a couple of public interviews and during the trial. And what struck me as very dramatic, dramatic terms, that there are elements of the intelligence community, national security, the NSA specifically, that have been withholding information about Ukraine. You implied or suggested that it was on orders from the White House and that it was an improper withholding of information from the intelligence committees. You should be entitled to that information, but the intelligence community was withholding it from you improperly. Is that still the case? And are the intelligence committees, both your committee in the House and the one in the Senate, likely to pry that information loose?
It is still regrettably the case, and it's a deep concern to me. There are really a couple categories of intelligence that are at issue. One is a category that was some of us, but it was not shared in a form that we could make it available to all the senators. And it was information that was pertinent to the case that they should have had to make their determination. That was one problem. The other problem is that there were other bodies of intelligence that we had requested that had been collected that were certainly pertinent to our request, but we couldn't tell how pertinent they may be to the trial. And at some point, there were instructions or dictates or requests from up above. And as a result, what was supposed to be turned over to us was withheld from us. That is particularly an issue with the NSA, but maybe an issue with the CIA as well. And here you have I think, the flaw that exists in the character of the president, which has already infected the Justice Department so grievously, and other agencies as well, now seeming to infect part of the intelligence community. And for those of us that rely on that intelligence community to speak truth to power, to speak plainly to us, not to withhold from us, it is of grave concern.
Briefly, Mr. Chairman, do you have support from the Senate Intelligence Committee, from its Republican leadership, on pursuing this?
I don't know the answer. I haven't talked to Chairman Burr about it. I know that Mark Warner shares the concerns that I have, at least as it pertains to the information that both I think he and I thought should properly be shared with the rest of the Senate, but I can't speak for Senator Burr.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.